Good evening. Yeah, evening. I had to think about when this video is coming out. Good evening, everybody. And welcome to a video that's going to get kind of deep. Um, as you can probably tell by the numbers littered across the bottom of your screen right now, this is about Mental Health Awareness Month. And I've been watching a lot of creators over the past couple months get really real about mental health and kind of, you know, creating an opportunity for people to see them more as the person that they are rather than the personality that they are. And I know that I'm no big thing, no a huge creator or caster or anything like that, but I know that I have people that follow me that may see who I am, but not see who I really am, if that makes sense. And so I want to take that opportunity to just be real with you. So I want to remind you that, again, all those numbers, including my own, I made a Google Voice number just for this occasion. Well, actually, I'll probably add it to my resume as well, for people to call me specifically for CaptJack related things. But if you need to talk, it's right there. Talk or text. You can do either. If that's what you want to do. Of course, my Twitter DMs and my Discord DMs are always open as well. So never feel that you need to utilize that number only unless I'm away from the house and I can't get to you through any conventional means that I normally can. Away from the house right now. What am I talking about? But anyway, so I played around a lot before starting this video. It is actually now midnight on the day this video is supposed to come up because I I didn't want to I didn't want to be one of those videos where like you talk about like everything that's caused your mental health and you start breaking down, which is ironic cuz I'm already crying, but that's actually part of my issues. And I'll go into that right now actually. So, you wouldn't know it, but I'm diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and insomnia. Mental health has been something that I've been dealing with for about a third of my life now. It's really actually kind of weird to look back on it that long. And honestly, it probably even goes back further than that. And I didn't have a label for it. I didn't have a name for it at the time. So it's it's been a long road to get to where I am now, and I'm far from done. I'm not anywhere close to where I want to be. I can thank this sweet old panorama for that right now because we're on YouTube, so we gotta be careful. But I'm sure you all understand what I mean. But let's get started at the beginning, shall we? I was beat as a child, and as many millennials may attest to, oh yeah, we got spanking. It's like that was real punishment. The kids don't get punished nowadays. No, no, I didn't get spanked. I got beat. There's a huge difference because spanking, in my mind's eye, should be done with a bare hand, whereas beating someone is using implements like fresh off the tree switches, belts, literal 2x4s built with a handle and holes drilled through them in order to inflict the maximum amount of pain on a child's rear end. Those are the things that, like, looking back, I don't understand how my body took it all. I really don't. And that was just one part of everything that went on. It was my second stepdad that I ended up living with full time when my great grandfather got Alzheimer's and my grandmother died. My great grandmother died. And so after that impact, and family shift, uh, that's when I started to learn about the abusive nature of step parents. And did my mom step in? No, not at all. She was very much a let the man handle it kind of mom. Although um, there were times eventually that he'd beat her too. Um, it was sick, honestly. But like I said, that was only the beginning of it. I mean, I remember times, standing in the corner for hours on end, having to be propped almost like a chair against the wall. Like my body was essentially like straight back, legs out and bent, and having to hold my hands out and hold cans of like corn or green beans on them for hours at a time. And if I dropped them, I'd have to start all over again. So, yeah, it was not a great childhood, at least at home, growing up. I had to throw myself out of the house as much as I possibly could. So, two things ended up saving me growing up: religion and school. Let's start with the first. Religion was huge for me growing up. My mom essentially used it as a way to get us kids out of her hair. So we'd get sent to church every Sunday and pretty much any activity that they had going on, um, just so that she could get alone time that she didn't have to deal with us. And I personally loved it. I created a lot of familial connections with people there, and I feel like I was learning about myself. And of course, it was a Southern Baptist church, so we believe in Jesus, hallelujah. I mean, if you do, that's great, but I didn't realize back then how indoctrinating it feels, I guess. And maybe it was just my personal experience, years later, that I realized that religion is just kind of a construct to teach people to be good to one another. Um, but at the time, it was a saving grace. I really needed something like that to be able to believe in my life, to be able to say that, if you do good, good comes back to you. And even still to this day, I part of me believes that if you put good into the universe, that somehow it'll come back to you. I am surprised that has not been broken out of me the way that our world works. But nevertheless, school was my next saving grace, and with it, also an abundance of relationships. The people that I call mom and dad now, not blood related, are actually my best friend from high school's parents. They were the ones that came out to Connecticut, where I live and where I went to school. I went to UConn. They came to my graduation from undergrad. They've come out and visited, and we visited them, and they send presents, and we do calls every other week or so, and they treat me like family. Because after years and years of abuse between not one but two stepdads, the second stepdad taking it a step further and literally beating me to a pulp with his fists, I couldn't take it anymore. And that's still something that I struggle with as the oldest child, because I don't have a connection with my other siblings anymore. For the simple fact that they look at me at 17 leaving because of all the abuse as a selfish act. That I left them alone by themselves. And it took me quite a few years in therapy to break past that. It really did. To realize that it was not my fault. And at 17, I couldn't be expected to take care of three other kids and try to keep them safe. I had been doing it essentially all my life. And there's only so much one's body can take before it's too much. And so at 17, I ended up moving in with who at the time was my girlfriend's parents. Um, this is actually the woman that I would go on to marry, and is the mother of Mini Jack, who you all know, my oldest child. Needless to say, out of the frying pan and into the fire was kind of a literal meaning in that sense. Um, Things were good for the most part. Um, Once I graduated, you know, um, I was wanting to go to college right afterwards. My family is all military based, and I was encouraged a lot to go to the military after high school. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not really a military person. Like, I'd rather just go straight to school. Like, I want to teach. Like, that's the goal. That's the gig. That's what I want to do. And at the end of the day, I didn't get a choice to, because remember how I said my mom loved to abuse the system? Well, abusing the system also means abusing your tax returns, and needless to say, the IRS caught on. So, no financial aid for CaptJack straight out of high school. So, that means what choice did I have? I either work flipping burgers, which I had already done 4 years of my life, or I joined the military. In 2007, I joined the military. I went into the submarine force. I was actually stationed for a majority of my time, well, actually, all of my time here in Groton, Connecticut. And it was interesting because after boot camp, I got married at the time to Minnie Jack's mom. We'd been together for 3 years. There'd been some ups and downs and stuff like that, but as does every relationship. But I didn't realize how bad it was gonna get um until Beeb Jack was born, because when Beeb Jack was born, or not when Beeb Jack was born, sorry, when Mini Jack was born. When Mini Jack was born, there was a shift in our relationship. Now, I've always, if you've met me, if you've ever interacted with me, I'm a very parental kind of guy. Like, I take on the father figure pretty well, I'd say. And I did back then too. Like, as someone that grew up in a very toxic household, the only desire I ever had was to have a family of my own that, I could love and care for. And needless to say, despite the fact that my wife at the time wanting to be a stay-at-home mom, um, she changed her mind afterwards. And I'm not meaning in the I want to go into the workforce kind of thing. I totally support that. And any woman that wants to go into this workforce, heck, I'll stay at home. I have no problem with that. I'm meaning more so in the fact of I want to return to what I should have been doing in my 20s kind of thing. Going out and staying out late with friends and partying and, doing all the dumb stuff that you do as a teenager and a young adult, you know, before you have children. Needless to say, our marriage did not last much longer after that. Um, Mini Jack would stay with me for a majority of the year, and then she would go, or they would go for visitation with their mom on a scheduled basis. Needless to say, those times didn't go well either. And as you can imagine, being in the military, going through a divorce, now being a single parent, with already so many issues with the mental. Note, I have not been diagnosed with anything up to this point. It was rough. I remember nights just lying in the couch or lying in the couch because after my marriage ended, I was kind of beside myself. It kind of hit me out of nowhere. And, I would just sit on the couch and cry because I couldn't understand. Like, I understood that I wasn't a perfect person. I just couldn't understand how someone could so easily move on without a care in the world. Especially in the military, you look at the person that's at home and you depend on them more than you normally would in a marriage. You depend on your partner because they have to pay the bills and take care of the house, and and they're just kind of like your lifeline outside of the military. And after that, I was lost. I really had no idea how I was gonna keep going. Thankfully, my commander at the time was able to convince the Navy to put me on shore duty for a time so I could get my affairs in order. Found a really good babysitter willing to work with me, and got sent to another ship that was being built at the time, so I had some more time on shore to take care of my child. And then my second marriage came around, and that was incredibly short-lived because I'm an idiot. Um, Talk about rebounding. I ended up marrying this person probably about a year after my divorce. And I thought it was safe. I was still naive. I was like early 20s still. So I was like, okay, I'm going to marry older. You know, I click with this person. We get along great. They have kids too, so they understand. Like, they were a single parent at the time as well, so they understood like what we were going through. Um, it just seemed right. And 6 months in, they cheated on me and filed for divorce. And needless to say, just about every relationship until I met Artemis over the past 10 years has not helped with that. And I'm surprised at myself that I have the love in my heart still that I do for people, because I've seen people that have been through so much come out so jaded. For me, I can't understand that impact. Like, I've been down before. I've been way down. I mean, as a kid, I can't tell you how many times I've thought about jumping off a bridge, hanging myself with a belt. Um, as an adult, driving over a bridge or driving in an area where I knew that I could just let go of the steering wheel and I wouldn't hurt anybody else but myself. It's astounding that I still care about people the way that I do. And some people chalk that up to me having what they call a golden heart. One of those things that, you just can't seem to get rid of no matter how hard you try. And believe me, there was a point in my life that I did. I was hoeing myself out something fierce. I didn't want to feel anything. Um, but I still felt it all. Some of it I even regret. And now it's a part that defines me. So, after my second divorce, I was pretty much released from the Navy at that point. I was trying to find a way to stay on shore duty, but needless to say, unless you have shown to be essentially an incredible sailor and have connections within your command to make something happen, they're not going to keep you in. And at the time, I didn't know it then, but my depression was impacting me so hard that I was not doing well. I mean, I was doing what I could, but I was not doing well. And then, during my exit interviews and whatnot, I was evaluated, and they found that I had depression and PTSD from my childhood. Awesome. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. And that was about it. Like, that was really all that I thought about it um, at the time, because I was really in that proud mindset, that I was able to fight it on my own, that it wasn't going to kind of overtake me. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Because over the years, I eventually, in 2012, I started seeing a therapist, probably the shittiest therapist I've ever had. Oh my gosh. We scheduled for an hour-long appointment. He'd ask how I was. 15 minutes later, he'd say, okay, we're done. And that was it. It was essentially like having a weekly diary. That's really how it felt, because there was no feedback. There was no urge to make change. And eventually I learned that that was not how therapy was supposed to go. So if you know anybody that does their medical with the VA, you'll know that therapists, or at least holding on to therapists, are hard to come by, because the turnover rate is incredibly high, because they deal with lots of big issues and probably pretty heavy caseloads depending on the area. And so over the past 10 plus years, I've had 10 plus, probably maybe 20 plus therapists because of the high rotation. Or having to seek services in the community, or this, that, and the other. And sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But it's something that I continue doing because I know what it does for you. I mean, part of what I did my undergrad in, I specifically did a minor in psychology to try to understand my own diagnosis better. Like, that was at that time how committed I was to try to learn more about about once I when I was in school, I had evolved from just regular old depression to major depressive disorder to I think it's like persistent depressive disorder, PDD, and now I'm at like fucking off the chart depression disorder. I don't know what it's called. Probably like severe, but it's it's basically like you've been depressed so long, like you can't see the light, and that's pretty much what it is. Um, but and of course that's all coupled with my PTSD as well, and that was something that I had a hard time getting therapists to focus on because a lot of them would look at my chart and see the depression, but not notice the PTSD. And so we talk a lot about depression aspects and things to help with depression, but not talk about, my childhood or anything like that. And it wasn't until much later, probably about 2016 or so, that I actually had a therapist that asked, like, did you know that your chart says that you have PTSD? And I was like, really? It's like, yeah, it says you have childhood PTSD. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that would make sense. I mean, I've never really thought about it before. And they were like, well, you know that treating PTSD and treating depression, although very similar, they actually have like, different things that you kind of do for each kind of thing. And so thankfully, that therapist ended up getting me kind of on a better track because at the time I'd been through so many different medications, so many different therapies, like just nothing was working. Everything was getting worse. In 2016, I was back in school, and around that time, that's when my anxiety started rearing its head. And for those of you that may not know, anxiety and depression are kind of two sides of the same coin. Like they actually quite literally play off each other. The way that it would cycle for me is like, wow, I have a project that's due. Holy crap, this is overwhelming. I don't want to do it. That cycles into, oh crap, I'm not doing this project. I'm such a failure. I really need to start doing it. Cycles into, oh crap, this is overwhelming. Cycles into your failure, overwhelming failure, overwhelming failure, overwhelming failure. You get the picture, right? So, uh, needless to say, that added a really interesting kink into into how my life worked. And reminder, I essentially have been a single parent between 2012 and until I met Artemis in 2018. I mean, we met in 2017, but she and CaptJack didn't come live with me until 2018. So, yeah, trying to handle all of this plus being a single parent at the time, which has its own challenges. On top of that, that's another thing that I've had to fight with is just my like recognizing my own parenting and trying to keep my kids from going through the same cycle that I did. It is something that rears its head very often that I have to like fight back down, and um it's one of those kind of, you have to change the narrative. Like you can't let your own traumas be your children's traumas. Now we're up to now, or almost now essentially. The pandemic hit. I was kind of getting better. It wasn't great, but I was kind of getting better. but as I'm sure many people that have been in the pandemic know, it has been a toll on the mental. I had to quit my master's program because of it, because I couldn't keep up. Because not only was I trying to do my own schoolwork, which involved cooking and textiles and all sorts of other stuff because of my particular degree. Um, I had to still be a parent full time, and my kids were doing online school. Um, my youngest in preschool, and my oldest at the time was in like, I guess it would have been last year's in seventh grade. So it just it just got to be too much. I couldn't handle it all, and then that cycle came back. I mean, it wasn't like it was gone, but it came back like with a vengeance. It was just like, you know, you're a failure. You're a failure. You're never gonna be good enough. You can't help your kids. You can't help yourself. You can't keep your family afloat. And I gotta be honest with you. If it wasn't for my disability income, my family wouldn't be well off right now. I don't know where we'd be. And that scares the crap out of me. Because it's like, I'm still a long way away from getting better, but there's that like fear inside that if I get better and we're not in a good place, that we will essentially lose everything. And that's maybe one of those irrational fears that you would think I wouldn't have to think about, but the VA is pretty stringent with its money. You have to jump through a lot of hoops to get to the level that essentially all your bills are taken care of by the VA through disability. So, by the way, I don't mind sharing this. I am 70% connected disability because that's how bad my mental health is. I, according to the VA, cannot hold down even a part-time job uh, because of how bad my mental is. And I would agree with them because I couldn't even do a long term substitute position when I had to go apply for 70%. So, gaming. I mean, I haven't been shy about it. I've been gaming for over 12 years, and it has been another one of those escapes. Honestly, probably one of the most positive escapes I've ever had. Um, there are times I really get lost in it. I'm not gonna lie, because it keeps me entertained and locked in, and I don't have to think about the bad stuff, and that's nice. But it also has connected me with a lot of great people. Even before I was in the Overwatch scene, I was a part of a group called DHG Inc. Die Hard Gamers Incorporated back in like 2014 to 2016. There are people to this day that I am still friends with and still talk to from that community. And, as you can see here, all of you watching this, if you've taken the time to watch, first off, thank you. But second off, you all, in one way or another, have helped save me, have helped keep my head on straight, and help keep me working forward to make myself better. So, thank you. It doesn't take much to be a good person. And it doesn't take much to impact a person's life. Um, and I think that that's why I'm such a big uh, supporter of gaming and gaming networks, is because of this. Because this is the part I love about gaming, is the networking, being able to connect with people across the world, creating relationships, and sometimes creating damn near families out of, you know, something that's just supposed to be fun. Being able to get real with people that you've never met in person. Or maybe that you have met in person, and it just provides an additional way to bolster your friendship or your relationship with that person. You know, some people meet their one and onlys through gaming. Like, it's just, I will always be a firm supporter of what gaming can do for people, because of how, at least the communities that I'm part of, how much they care about people. And I'm talking especially to my folks in Tranquility there. We care a lot about people. And I could not be prouder of what we do every single day in our community to make sure that people know that we care about them. So that if they don't have anybody else, they at least have a place with us. And sometimes that really matters to people. So, I guess this is the part where maybe I should start talking about things that help, I guess, things that have gotten me as far as I have gotten. You know, if you're in that dark place right now, you know, what are some saving throws that you can go to? First off, numbers all below. I have used the suicide hotline before. I've used the suicide hotline while I've been with Artemis. They're incredibly wonderful people. And although it's not like an end all be all, you know, having that person to talk to, that third party that knows nothing about you, that can help you get some stuff off your chest, they're great. Honestly, when I'm in a better mental, I've thought about being one of those people on their end of that hotline. So, uh, consider me adding my number here as a test to see if I'm up to that yet, because I think there should be more people out there to help those in need. Um, One thing that I hear a lot that I kind of disagree with, and again, this is only my own personal opinion, no science behind it. Talk to your therapist about it, of course. Um, if you can't live for yourself, live for someone else. You know, I've been told that that's a horrible thing to do, but I gotta say, when it's so dark and it's so hard to live for yourself that you can't even make it through one day. I know for me, in those many years of being a single parent, either, you know, watching my child color or seeing them asleep in bed, knowing that I had to stay alive for them. I mean, I'm still here. And it makes enough of a difference. Um, whatever anchors you to this world, live for that. That's the best piece of advice I can give, on top of just be kind to yourself. I know it's hard. It's so hard. I can't tell you how many times Artemis gives me the stink eye because I'm such an asshole to myself. Cannot tell you. I put myself down all the time because that's all I've known. Stepdads and ex-wives or ex-girlfriends, people that have just kind of hated me out of spite for no reason. All of their messages are stuck in my head, and their voices live on in me. So I guess another reminder that remember that the words that you say impact people. And sometimes they impact people more than you know. So I guess where I want to leave you is this: just be kind. There's a saying, I forget who says it, like, if you can grow up to be anything in the world, be kind. And I feel like nowadays that is lost a lot. I mean, we see it if you pay even 10 seconds of attention to the news nowadays. Kindness is not something that is in large supply right now, but I feel like there are a lot of people, at least around me, or that I surround myself with, that are, to a certain extent, kind. So find those people around you, hold on to them as best you can, within reason, of course. Respect boundaries, and, uh, hopefully they respect your boundaries and, views and whatnot. But, like, this world just needs more kindness, not only to each other but to ourselves. As the other saying goes, it's very hard for other people to love you if you cannot love yourself. And it's not because they can't love you, they certainly can, but it doesn't have the same impact as loving yourself does. And it's okay to be a work in progress. There is always room to grow, always room to expand your horizons. And if you're in deep, if you're in that dark place right now, just know that you're going to find a way out. And you have plenty of ways and plenty of people around you to help. Or at very least, you got me. Because I don't typically turn people away. That's another bad habit of mine. I tend to put 100% of my trust into people before they prove to me otherwise. Probably not the best character trait, but for those people that really need it, it really does help. And it allows me to continue to keep the door open for them. So, be kind to others and yourself. Don't be afraid to live for something or someone else, if that's what it takes. And reach out to your resources, family, friends, especially mental health services, like a therapist or psychiatrist if you need that. Uh, it sucks. I know, because more than likely my depression and anxiety are to a certain extent hereditary. Excuse me, as I've learned over the years. So medicine might just be part of the deal, and it's okay. It's okay. So, I'm the mental health issues I have are just a small portion of all the mental health issues that people could see. So I hope that this video has been a clear example of someone who on the outside seems really exciting and always having a good time, to kind of pull back the curtain so that you could see me for who I am. Because at the end of the day, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy trying to live his life, trying to take care of his family, and just trying to do the best I can to put one foot in front of the other. And I truly hope the same to you. Final reminder, all the numbers below this video, you can call them. I got the areas that I thought most of the people that I know about would be coming from, and these are just based off of internet searches I did. So if you're from those areas or from other areas, please use this video as a way to provide additional resources to people that may need help. Because that comment could be the one that saves someone's life. So please look out for yourself, look out for one another, and thank you so much for spending your time with me. It truly means the world.